Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA as we get ready to start hour number 2 on a Monday morning. It's Christmas week as we're doing the build-up down the stretch to Christmas on this coming Friday. And I want to start a brand new segment. We're going to start this every Monday morning at 10:05, and it's what I've wanted to do for a while. It's with a guy who happens to be a good friend of mine, but also one of the more knowledgeable guys that I've ever met in my lifetime. He's Major Doe DeCree. He's retired from the U.S. Army Special Forces. He served in the theaters of Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, Hanson, Louisiana, where he kiddingly says he was the mayor of Hanson for a while during Hurricane Katrina. He has served in many different capacities serving our country, but he also is a guy that has a pretty good take on a lot of different things, and we're going to go into a lot of different topics today. He is Major Doe DeCree, retired, and he's with us here on the Gary Sutton Show. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Merry Christmas to y'all.
Merry Christmas to you, and great to have you. And we're starting this brand new segment. And if it,
we've been talking about this for years.
Yeah, we have. So finally, it becomes a reality here. And you made the grade. I mean, you've made the grade.
Boy.
You made the grade for a long time. You know that. But now you thought the heat was bad when you were serving, man. I'll tell you what. Now it's really on you. So
yeah, no kidding. I got to have intelligent things to say. Back then, I could just say stuff.
Well,
People had to do it anyway.
You could say, Donald Trump says you could still say it's just stuff, and go from there. But anyway, I want to get into a whole lot of topics with you this morning. One of the things, and we were posing some questions the other day, and you came up with all the topics, by the way. I just sat back and said, yeah, we'll do that.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I noticed that, too. I was like, hey, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, wasn't that
let's talk about all that. Like,
what a slacker, huh?
25 minutes, man. All right, go.
I know. Hey, we're in a time right now where a lot of people are saying, who speaks for U.S. Muslims? I watched all the conversations since San Bernardino, really, and, people are out there saying, well, we're worried about this, we're worried about that. Donald Trump says let's hold up on Muslims coming to the country. Who speaks for U.S. Muslims right now? That's a big question.
I think that is a great question. I would say CARE speaks for U.S. Muslims, and do they represent all U.S. Muslims? Heck no. But the lack of counterspeak or the lack of denial. I mean, I saw one last week. Hey, CARE doesn't speak for us. Okay, that's great. But Islam is kind of an interesting culture. Separate Islam from faith for a minute and just look at it as a cultural entity. And the Muslims universally believe that spreading the Muslim faith is one of their tenets, just like Christianity. Spreading the faith is a tenet of theirs, and they're all called to do it. There is that part of Islam that says, however we do it is great. So, the jihad, which to traditional Muslims is an inner jihad. It's the same struggle that Christians deal with of, the earthly self versus the spiritual self and letting God do his work in you kind of thing. So that's the inner jihad. The outer jihad is, the defense of the faith, which can be any one of a number of things. And I'm no expert on Islam, so, be a good idea for you to have somebody who is, on your show at some point. But the defense of the faith can be, no, this is why I believe in Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. Or it can be, the extreme version of what we're seeing. The problem with Islam now is that I don't know that a lot of Muslims approve of the extreme thing, but universally they're being quiet, and it's a mute consent thing. That kind of says, yeah, well, they're spreading the faith. Maybe don't like it, but we'll sort that out after. It's kind of the flavor I'm getting. Now it's been probably 10 years or so since I've had Muslim friends. I've known a lot of them overseas, but I really that's my kind of unstudied opinion on it. And so if you're not speaking up for yourself and other people are speaking for your organization, then they are speaking for you because you're not speaking for yourself.
Speaking of faith, one of the things that, we worry about in our country today, we see, people talking about Islam, but we also see people attacking faith. You can't go through a day anymore this time of year where people aren't trying to take the Christmas manger scene down out of the town square and that kind of thing. But we seem to Christianity, I'm not saying something that's brand new here. Christianity has been under attack for some time. And I've often said, why is it that faith seems to be diminishing so much in this period of time? Your thoughts on that?
Well, again, faith for America in somewhere after World War II, went from being a rock-solid spiritual thing to more of a cultural thing. And one of the reasons we're having trouble dealing with Islam right now is because we don't respect religion anymore. We see religion as just a generic philosophy. They're all the same. One's as good as another, no problem. That's why one of the reasons we've got so many kids from Alabama and places going to ISIS because they stand for something. So faith in America, I think politically, I think the liberal movement has deliberately tried to supplant faith with themselves. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really do. I think there's no room for God if you're worshiping government.
Well, whoever you are, whether you're liberal or whatever you call yourself, the fact is, and I read some of these things by a guy like Saul Alinsky, and I read things about it, you have to take away the basic beliefs of people in order to be able to move forward with your own and supplant them.
Exactly. We are unhinging the bedrock of social order in this country, and we're calling it good, and it's not. And I'm tired of the counter arguments of, well, Christians hate gays. No, I don't hate anybody. I disagree with some lifestyles, but doesn't the left wing disagree with my lifestyle? And how's that okay? But I can't disagree with anything on their side. So, I think that we are deliberately trying to unhinge that. The thing about Western society now, Gary, is that it provides opportunity but no meaning. And so we're absent the meaning. And so when it's not there, we double down on the things that we're already doing, which is, now free speech zones in college. And
right.
Gosh, did you see that poll, that false poll somebody did at Harvard the other day, where he's having people sign a petition to rescind the First Amendment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're looking for some rock solid you can and can't do it again, but we're remaking the wheel that doesn't need to be made.
And the thing is, when you take away the moral base of a society, and people can try to reject our history and say, Christianity, Judeo-Christian ethic, none of that stuff really happened. Yeah, it really did happen for the most part. And the point is, when you take that away and you say, okay, now there is no real right, there's no real wrong, there's no real good, there's no real bad, then it becomes that much easier to construct the gray areas as you're out every time and stay in grade school as far as the way we think about morality in our society.
It's funny. These experiments have been tried throughout history. Rome, ancient Rome, lost its moral compass, if it ever really had one. And so it went from the nobility of the Senate to the fiat of the Caesars, and you can't run a country or an empire on the personality strengths of one man. It just doesn't work. And yet we continue to try to do that. It hasn't worked. It didn't work in Nazi Germany. It didn't work in Yugoslavia. It didn't work in Japan pre-World War II. It's never worked, and we're going to try it again, though, because now we've got it down. It's for real this time.
Here's an interesting thought. Why do we turn to one person to rule us? Why do we put such faith in one person? Is it convenience? Is it stupidity? Is it the fact that it's easier to just pick one person? Why do we allow that to happen to ourselves when people say, well, liberty is a natural feeling. It's something that we all want. And yet if we all want it, why would we do that?
I don't have an answer for that one. I think that people need leadership. I think that it's we just need somebody. And so the one who says the thing that you like hearing the best will go to. The problem is, we've become so shallow that we accept the package, but there's no substance to it. Especially in the current president, there's no substance to this guy at all. He's really I think a very shallow person at best, and yet we keep following along because hey, why not?
He's a president.
Yeah, exactly. He says the things we want to hear. Because we look at what we want, we don't really look at what we need any longer. No,
I agree with you. We've also become so polarized in our conversation that, well, he's maybe not a good president, but he's my guy. He's in my camp. He's my ideology, and so I've got to go with him. Yeah.
That in politics, we do that. We're very schizophrenic about it. It's you're allowed to say things about the guy's policy, but not him. except if you say things about his policy, then you're saying it about him. It's like, I don't agree with the president. I'll say straight out, I think he's a bad person. He's a horrible leader, and he's not a very good president. So, but if I discuss his policies, the first thing people say is, well, it's racist. Like, no. Because here's the thing. He continued the same policies under the Bush administration that I also didn't like.
Right.
But that's never allowed in the conversation. If you liked George Bush in his second term and say you don't like Barack Obama in his first term, I think you're not looking at things well.
No, I agree with you. And I think the idea is when it's like we get to these political campaigns and we get to the people that we support, we say, okay, I am going to suspend my ability to think anymore because now I'm part of a club. I'm either part of the right club or the left club. Instead of saying, am I part of the American club? Am I part of the club that says this is what's best for our country and best for the people of our country? Is this what going to lead us forward?
Self-hatred and loathing, Gary. I mean, for crying out loud, we call, African-American. Hate that term. American-African, I don't mind.
Right. And why do we need that? Isn't that understood? Isn't that just understood? I mean, if you just say American, aren't we sophisticated enough? Apparently, we're not to say, oh, well, but you have an Italian last name. Well, I'm very proud of my Italian roots, but I'm an American. We came from Italy. Here's the point. You left there for some reason.
Exactly. My grandparents were immigrants. My dad's parents were immigrants, and I asked my grandmother to teach me Italian. And here's exactly what she said in very bad English. You're an American kid. Speak English.
There you go.
Italian's not going to get you anywhere here.
We're talking with Major Doe DeCree this morning, retired. And, Joe, Republican presidential field, speaking of presidential candidates of the world.
Like a fantasy league.
The world has been turned upside down this morning. Lindsey Graham has suspended his campaign, and so we won't have him to kick around anymore. So we're now down to God knows what.
Lindsey's a good policy wonk, and that's kind of his niche, and that's where he needs to be.
Yeah, but, he's a guy that he almost reminds me of a guy who likes to hear himself speak way too much. But anyway, he's kind of a Will Rogers, folksy, down-home kind of politician that after a while wears on you, and you kind of want to get out of the room.
Well, it's fake.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, tell me a little bit about your thoughts about what you're seeing in the whole Republican presidential field right now. We know what we get in the Democratic side with Hillary Clinton. She's in. But now we got the Republicans here. What's your take on all them?
I haven't spent a lot of time with these guys because there's so many of them. It's like, this is never going to make it to the primaries in this fashion. I like pieces of all of them. What I really look for in a presidential candidate is what kind of leadership do I think this person can exercise, and how good a commander-in-chief do I think they'd be. And so I guess the four front runners are now Trump, Carson, Cruz, and
Rubio. Yeah, Carson's actually fourth. I saw he's at 9% this morning. Trump's at like 39. Cruz is at 18. Rubio's like 16, and then Carson's at 9, and then everybody else drops off to 3.
I liked Carly originally. Because I think she is a pretty good leader. But I'm really uncomfortable with some of the things she supported in California. And I know that people can change, but I would prefer. I don't have a problem with a politician who says, "Look, I've changed my mind on this issue, and here's why." But nobody ever says that. What we get was the John Kerry, I voted against it before I voted for it, after I voted with it and around it, or whatever. Don't tell me this is what you've always done if this isn't what you've always done. I keep track, but I'm uncomfortable with some of the things she supported, health and climate-wise. I like Trump's honesty. I really do. I think Trump would be an okay leader. I'm not sure I want to see him as president, but I think he would be way better than Hillary. I actually don't like Trump on taxes.
I don't either. And I think the idea that the rich ought to pay a little bit more. So the idea of taxes to me is, okay, there is no fair tax. That's my first premise on taxes. There is no such thing as a fair tax. So let's get that off the table.
Exactly.
There is a least unfair tax that you're kind of looking for. And to me, that would be something that we all take part in, where we pay percentage across the board. I have no problem with that particular kind of thing. That's not fair, but it's at least less unfair than what we have. We're going to take a quick break, Joe. We're going to come right back. I want to hit you some more on maybe some of the Republican presidential candidates and also sports addictions. Wanted to talk about this morning. How's that, ladies and gentlemen? Sports addictions. We're going to come back with Major Doe DeCree, retired, here on the Gary Sutton Show. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. Major Doe DeCree, retired U.S. Army Special Forces and good friend, most importantly, back with us here on the Gary Sutton Show. So let me give you your fantasy league matchup for the election. You get Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. Where's that vote go?
I really don't know. I think that we are an overpolled country, and over-counseled. So I think that I know me on those rare occasions where I get polled. I lie to the pollsters. I deliberately. I just don't tell them.
Well, you know what? A lot of people are doing that now. There's a lot of people saying they do it on purpose because they don't want to say the wrong thing.
Polls now is much wider than the standard 3% that that you and I grew up with. Where if Gallup came out or Zogby came out, that was money. It's no longer that way because people, they see it as their 15 minutes.
Yeah, you know what, Joe?
Selfie. They put it on their Facebook. Whatever, but I think people aren't really honest until they get in the privacy of the polling booth.
I agree with you totally. I think we're seeing it more and more. Rand Paul said, by the way, we have American Idol type of polls this week, and I think it was a great statement. I think we really do, and I think that's about as much as it's based on at the moment.
It's the poll of the moment, and I think that we are people of if I was at least 4 different philosophies and maybe 6 or 7 political philosophies in this country, but we all have to jam ourselves into one of 2 parties because the third party never wins. At one time, right? The Bull Moose Party, that was the only third-party victory. So if you're a conservative person or libertarian or something, your only real hope is to completely reorganize the Republican Party.
Well, and actually, I don't want to burst your bubble, but the Bull Moose Party didn't win either. So
that's right.
Yeah, he ran, but he lost.
That's right.
Teddy Roosevelt. Hey, sports
and then
addictions.
He crashed the Republican Party.
That's exactly right. Come back home. Sports addictions. Talk a little bit about that. You had that down on your list this morning. I was kind of intrigued by that.
I think kind of going back to our original discussion, we're talking about the lack of substance in American culture now because we're, get everything now and religion is wrong, so we're not really allowed to believe in anything except politically correct things, which is dangerous because the politically correct can change. But I think especially guys are substituting sports for all that. I know a couple years ago, I probably knew, every football player and their vital statistics, hockey and baseball as well. That's just what I did. I got up in the morning and listened to Mike and Mike on ESPN, and then progressed through the day and checked all my sports web pages. I was at work and came home and watched. Wilbon and Kornheiser, and kind of wrapped it up with SportsCenter at night. And that's just what I did. I think there's a lot of guys, especially guys like that. Now with the fantasy leagues, it's even worse. And honestly, I'll tell you what changed it for me was Bob Costas's rant on football on the Second Amendment. When some Kansas City linebacker killed his girlfriend and shot himself, which is certainly a tragedy that she died. But to me, anytime a wife beater shoots himself is not a tragedy.
Yeah.
But, after his rant, I realized, I'm like, I watch this stuff, and basically I have this sports addiction, or had it, because I'm trying to get away from all that. If you force me to cover, to listen to your social engineering things, I became less interested. And the more I thought about it, the more, ESPN especially, they're more social agenda than sports anymore. And the more I was listening, the more I was like, I like the games, but I no longer like the sports industry. But if you talk to guys around the country, especially guys, and even girls now, they have a bad week if their football team loses on Sunday. That's horrible. That's just horrible.
Yep.
If your team loses, and sorry to say, the Ravens aren't doing well this year, Gary.
Well, they're not. They're pretty bad, actually. So
yeah, well, it happens. My hockey team's tanking too, but it's like, gosh, 2 years ago, I'd be losing sleep over this. 3 years ago, I'd be losing sleep over this. This year, it's like, they'll figure it out. They got the rest of the season.
Final thought. We didn't get to the DOD today. We'll get that another time. But final thoughts on Christmas. We're heading up this week, and I know you people don't get a chance. If I read that, it would take my whole show to read your letter. And Joe sends out one of the greatest letters ever on Christmas. But your thoughts on Christmas here as you head into Friday this week?
I think Christmas is the last visible vestige of traditional America that's going away. And I think, to me, that's a good thing. Christmas is a spiritual season for me. It is the birth of Christ. And, nothing is more offensive to me than when I say Merry Christmas, especially in the store, and somebody says, oh, Happy Holidays, and, I usually leave. if you need me to celebrate my holiday in the manner in which I do to make your financial year, then please acknowledge that holiday to me. It's common courtesy. I don't care what your policy is. And honestly, the most offensive thing I can this time of year is when people give me cards that say Xmas. It's like I can deal with Christ X, but Xmas, no. It's very offensive to me. This is Christmas. It is that season. It's the season for getting in touch with things that are really important that aren't Sunday Night Football.
Joe, I don't know if anybody can say it much better than that. I really appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you being with us this morning and your views on this. By the way, we're going to have Joe's comments up at facebook.com/910WSBA tomorrow. We'll have that up, and you can listen to that again. Joe, I'm looking forward to next Monday with you, and we'll do it same time, same station, definitely. And thanks so much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Talk to you later, buddy.
You take care. Merry Christmas to you.
You too.